Hello, this is author Nathaniel Garrett Novosel, and today I'm reading my blog post, 7 Ways That You Might Be Holding Yourself Back in Life. Everyone has asked, what have I been doing wrong in my life at one point in time? It's often hard to see the mistakes that you might be making since you are in the moment. While it's hard to give general advice that's universally applicable, there are several common self-limiting activities that, based on probability, you'll likely be partaking in. So let's go through those now. First, you're avoiding growth-enabling experience because you're overestimating the risk of a negative outcome. Now, everyone sees things that they want to be, do, or have at some time in their lives where they compare it to the social norm and think, what will people think of me if I do this? While you always have to weigh the benefits and risks of any decision, if the only negative reaction is others' judgment and pursuing this life passion would make you happy, you're probably making the wrong decision by suppressing your desire to appease others. Second, you're suppressing your desire too much to appease others. There's a difference between compromise, in other words, a decision that gives everyone a little bit of what they want, and one-sided concession. One person is always sacrificing for the other's benefit. There are times and places when you should sacrifice, but you should always look for win-win first. It's only quote unquote selfish if you benefit at someone else's expense. Don't let people tell you that you're selfish or for looking for the win-win option instead of the way they win, you sacrifice option. Ironically, they are the ones being selfish in those scenarios. Next, you let negative beliefs hold you back from success. In my opinion, this is the most difficult of all of them. There will always be a balance between believing in what is real, which you might call knowledge, and believing what is possible, which you might call faith, for example. No matter what anyone says on the science slash atheist or religion slash theist debate, every single human being on this planet balances their knowledge of what is and their imagination of what's possible. In extreme examples, no atheist is arguing that they can't go skydiving just because they've never done it before. In other words, they use others' experience to predict the likelihood of them being able to do it, but they've never actually done it before. So if they don't believe anything that hasn't been done, then they hadn't done it, and therefore it wouldn't exist. And no one believes that, of course. That's silly. And no one with belief in a religion is jumping off cliffs and flapping their arms, hoping they'll be able to fly. In other words, they accept reality and the proven ways to fly, such as boarding a plane. Again, most people, I'll say it, no one, but most people wouldn't do wouldn't do that, knowing that probably going to kill them. So the question is where you draw the line between knowledge and faith or belief and reality, and it will strongly affect your life. Theoretically, the optimal posture in this balance is to believe that anything that has been done by humans is possible, plus a little more that no one has done yet. There are so many beliefs that you hold that could hold you back when the outcome is very much possible. Just because no one has done it before doesn't mean that you can't do it. Just because you have certain limitations doesn't mean that you can't find another way to do it. And just because it's not true now doesn't mean you can't make it true in the future. Use priming and self-fulfilling prophecy to your advantage. Those are two psychological principles. Priming being if you bring something to the forefront of your mind by thinking about it, you start to notice it everywhere, like if you go to buy a Prius and then see Priuses all over the road, for example. And self-fulfilling prophecy is the fact that you believe something, so you actually make it true by behaving in ways that cause the thing that you believe to be true. So use them to your advantage. Your beliefs affect how long you will work through adversity toward an outcome. So sustain it in any way you have to if that's what you really want. And of course, You don't risk bodily harm or other negative consequences beyond where you're comfortable. Next, you let your feelings dictate your next step or hold them too long instead of accepting the feedback and letting them go. This is another tough one. Your emotions were meant to give you instantaneous feedback that led to an action in the wilderness to keep you alive. Once the crisis is over, you're supposed to go back to normal. And you can see that many animals generally don't hold their emotions for too long, for example. In fact, if you've ever seen a baby crying and then go and sees ice cream and then is smiling, happy, and giggling 2 seconds later, and you're wondering why they were even crying in the first place, then you know that humans can do that as well. However, in modern society, we do face two huge issues. Our emotions are still giving us the right indicator, but are no longer preparing us for the right response. And then we also possibly end up suppressing or holding our emotions for a long time, which are affecting us for hours, days, weeks, months, or even years after the event. Now, look, while it's not easy to control and get over them, you need to practice this. When you feel an emotion in a situation where you need to remain calm, learn to accept it without action. Process why you're feeling it, determine the best response, respond, and then let go of the emotion now that the situation is over. If you can master this, you can stop wasting time on irrational responses or obsessing over the past, which is a major thing that you could be doing wrong in your life. Next, you aren't consistent with how you treat yourself and others. Now, no one likes hypocrisy, but it's so difficult to be consistent since everyone has a clear bias for themselves, but also might treat themselves worse than others if they are hard on themselves. There's no magic formula to getting this one right. You just have to keep monitoring yourself for consistency, fairness, and accurate reciprocity. If you ask others for things but never give back, you're probably taking advantage of them. If you forgive others but never forgive yourself, you need to stop the self-blame and shift toward self-acceptance. If you put someone on a quote-unquote kill list every time they wrong you, like Arya Stark from Game of Thrones, maybe you need to tone down the punishment to fit the crime response. But it can work both ways. If someone is taking advantage of you and you let it slide, you might have to stand up for yourself. So find areas where you are inconsistent and try to address them. If I had just one recommendation for you to judge accurately, imagine your worst critic trying to make your actions seem as evil as possible. How would they articulate what you're doing, and how accurately would that portrayal represent your actual behavior? If many would agree that it was unfair given the same information and logic, you probably need to adjust your actions to be more fair and consistent. And that's that your actions were unfair. Next, you're afraid to ask for help. This is a difficult one because no one likes to seem weak or be rejected. But if you are in need, you need to ask for help. Yes, people are busy and they're self-centered, meaning that they take care of themselves first. I don't mean any negative connotation about self-centeredness. But they are also willing to help people that they care about or people who have helped them. If they're not, then that's a good indicator that either they're really too busy or they don't care about you or appreciate the help you gave them. That's why people become nervous to ask. But here's the thing. Your success can be exponentially greater with support, so if you don't get it, you're limiting your potential. No entrepreneur built a billion-dollar business by him or herself. They all had help. Yes, you might need to offer something in exchange or propose a win-win solution, but getting others help when you need it or when you want it can help you achieve your goals, and if it's a win-win, will benefit the other person too. And finally, you think that something is not within your control that is. In life, you want to do everything that you can to move toward your goals, while of course keeping sane and not sacrificing your health and well-being in the process, of course. However, you also have to accept what you can't control while focusing on what you can. The problem is, it's difficult to see what you can and can't control. When you think about it, there are a few things outside your control. You can't control the weather, but you could move to another city where the climate is more desirable more frequently for you. You can't control the number of hours in a day, but you can prioritize and schedule your activities to get the most out of what you have, or even delegate tasks, which can feel like you're freeing up or getting more time. So, there are many things you can do to control things that can achieve the same goal that you were going for when you wish to control the uncontrollable things. Now, there are two mistakes humans can make. They can believe that they can control the uncontrollable, that's known as having a superstition, and they can believe that something is uncontrollable when it's controllable. It's what you call learned helplessness. While there is a danger in each, most superstitions, such as wearing the same socks that you won in past competitions or knocking on wood, they're harmless, right? So you're wearing socks that probably maybe smell bad or knock on wood for no reason. However, not controlling something that you think is uncontrollable could be very detrimental to your life, such as not studying for a test because you think it's not going to be of any use and you're going to fail anyway. So, if you had to err on one side or the other, it's usually better for you to believe you can control something that's possible that it's uncontrollable versus vice versa. I know that's counterintuitive because you think you want to bring your beliefs in line with reality, and I know how silly superstitions can seem to a lot of people. But imagine the person who lived their whole lives missing out on success because they didn't take an action that seemed out of their control that actually wasn't out of their control. The easiest approach to this is to be as open to possibilities first before you place limitations. Then you can see if there are ways around those limitations. It's the limitations that you don't try to get around that end up becoming your learned helplessness blind spots. In other words, things you could influence that you stop trying to. So, many people are susceptible to the above growth inhibitors, so you need to be aware of them and see if they do indeed apply to your life as things you're doing that, if you weren't, you'd be better off. So, those are the 7 ways that you might be holding yourself back in life.